We're doing the Sidur and all the Seder Hafrashat, and Seder Hafrashat, one of the brachas that's probably unique for Eretz Yisrael, and people say it all the time. Say it not all the time, but they say it at least once in their lifetime, not more. And it's good to understand what we're saying is Seder Hafrashat Terumot Ma'asrot appears in the Siddur, and the text is I don't want to say purposely confusing, extremely confusing. You could have modern Hebrew.
Marrying Israeli, you learned how to do it.
It can be. I mean, if someone would phrase it in a modern text, it would phrase it so much simpler. But since people say it, I mean, anybody have garden fruit? Yeah, said the we say the words. Hopefully, I mean, it works. If you say it, you say it. When you designate something monetary, then you can't say I didn't understand what I was saying. This, if you said you're going to give someone a million shekel, I didn't understand what the word million meant, but you said it, you spoke it. That's done, right? You have to give a million shekel. You can't claim you had no understanding of the word. But and the Seder Hafrashat and Seder Hafrashat. Yeah. So it's for no, and then there's a chad meditation. It's very confusing text. So I figured it's an opportunity for the Siddur to understand what we're saying. Maybe you can explain that to your husbands or anybody else you see them to want them also. You can tell them, do you want to tell you what you're actually saying? It's kind of it's interesting. So some background for Terumot Ma'asrot. I can give the background, then I'm gonna show you how what I explained appears in the words, because the halachot of Hafrashat Terumot Ma'asrot are pretty simple, but the way they're phrased here in the text is what makes things complicated. Just the ways they're phrased. Okay, so you have the Seder Terumot Ma'asrot. First, you have the truma from the Torah in any amount. El dvarim she'enem shiur. Right, one of them is truma. Truma you can give to the Kohen any amount you want. When we actually give a truma, we make it 2%, or that's ayin tova. That's 1 in 40 if you want to give more, but the karadin is any amount. Today we're not really giving it to Kohen, so we're trying to go for any amount, which is the karadin, because we don't want it to go for the smallest amount of should go for waste and not bigger amounts. That is Tuma Gdola. Tuma Gdola, because it could be big, but it's really can be also very, very small. After you do the Tuma Gdola, that to the Kohen, you move on to the Levi. Right? The Levi, you give him Maser Rishon. The first Maser, by order. It's easy to remember what comes first, Maser Rishon, Maser Sheni. It's in the name, right? Maser Rishon, it's called Maser Rishon because of the order. Right? There's no, the order is important. We'll understand in a second why the order is important, but Maser Rishon goes to Levi. It's called Maser Rishon, comes first. If you don't remember the order, it's Maser Rishon. So Truma, Maser Rishon, which is Maser Me'eser. Literally the word Ma'aser means Me'eser. So unlike the Truma, which can be any amount, and the rabbi said, 2%, 1 in 40, or 1 in 60, and today any amount, that's from the rabbis, from the Torah, any amount. Ma'aser from the Torah is Ma'aser, Me'eser, very defined, very exact. When the Torah says 10, Al Tarbeh Le'aser Omadot, the Mishnah Navot says, you shouldn't, things that are supposed to be exact, you can't give Be'erech. You say, there's 10% here. It's good enough, right? Probably a bit more, but less. No. Maaser has to be Maaser. Not more than Maaser, not less than Maaser. Maaser. So Maaser Rishon goes to Levi. Yes? How?
How are you exact with a mango?
We'll get there in a sec. Exactly how that works. Once you get Maaser Rishon to Levi, the Levi has a responsibility to give 10% of his 10%, which comes out 1%, right? He has to give that also the Kohen. So the Yisrael has an obligation towards the Kohen, also the Levi has an obligation towards the Kohen. And that's called Tumat Ma'aser. It's Truma, it's called the Kohen, but it's Ma'aser, it's an exact amount, 1 in 10. Anytime it's Ma'aser, we know the exact amount, it's going to be 1 in 10. Truma is any amount. Tumat Ma'aser is, Truma goes to the Kohen, Ma'aser, exact amount, Truma Ma'aser, exact amount that goes to the Kohen. Okay? So that is the Levi's responsibility to give to the Kohen. That is when that's we call it first half. Once the Kohen and the Levi got their dues, then it depends on the year. In years of the Shemitah cycle, years Avedah, Aleph, Bet, Dav, Hey, first year, second year, fourth year, and fifth year, 10% you put aside to be eaten in Jerusalem. It or its value should be eaten in Jerusalem. That's called Maser Sheni. Exact amount, Maser Sheni, because of the order. After the Maser Rishon, we'll understand the sec why the order is very important. Why they name it by the order for you won't confuse.
10% of what's left over.
Exactly. That's why the Maser Sheni, remember the order, do not do this out of order because the amounts change. Because if I already removed 10%, a bit more than 10%, I've removed 10% and a bit, because I gave a bit to the Kohen and I gave 10% to the Levi, right? So what I have left is 90% of the original amount. So when I give 10% of that, I'm giving less than if I give 10% of the whole amount. If you have 100, then it'll be 10, then the second maser will be 9. Okay, that's why it's maser sheni, because it's 10% of what's left. Okay, and that's why it's called maser sheni, because maser sheni is always going to be a different amount than the maser rishon. It's at least the smallest amount it can be is 10% less. Okay, so that is maser rishon, maser sheni. That is shanim aveda aleph bet dal and hey, and the remaining years of gimel and vav, because in Shemitah year there is no Terumot Ma'asrot. It's all patur, it's all hefker, right? In years 3 and 6, 10% goes to the ani, maser ani. So again, you put 10% aside, and it goes to the ani. That is introduction of all the Terumot Ma'asrot that have been given. Give the Kohen, we give the Levi gives the Kohen. Then another 10%, either we keep aside for ourselves to eat in Jerusalem, or in twice a year, twice a cycle, we give another 10%. This time to the poor. So in the Shemitah cycle, then twice in the Shemitah cycle, you're going to give you 20%. You're not going to keep. But normally, we don't keep at least 10%. Sometimes it goes 12%. When you used to give 2% to the Kohen. That is when it comes to Terumot and Ma'asrot. Now today, Kohanim are b'chizkat Kohanim. We assume the Kohanim, and therefore we don't want to give them actual truma, because if they're not a Kohen, the chazaka is not enough for them to eat it. We don't trust the chazaka enough to allow the Kohen to eat it. We trust the chazaka for many things, not for eating truma, because if you eat truma and you're not a Kohen, it's karet. We don't give truma to a Kohen. And also, he has to make sure he's tov, etc., etc., etc. Other reasons we don't give truma. It's probably tameh, and you can't eat tameh truma, or tumat tameh. Those are the reasons we don't give truma. Levi, why don't we 10% to the Levi? Levi, the maser rishon, all the is not holy. Right? If I eat maser, I think it's not asur. It's not, the word truma does not appear. Then it means it's just 10% is designated, but the fruit itself can be eaten by anybody. Why don't we actually give it to the Levites? We don't give it to the Levites either, probably because of a fine, an ancient fine. In Sefer Nehemiah, it tells how the Jews were designated to come to Eretz Yisrael, and very few came. And even though they called them to come, they didn't come. Part of the punishment of those who didn't come was there was the Gzera not give the Levim their Maaser anymore. Now, that's one reason. There might be another reason. Maybe they're not really Levim, but that wouldn't be a reason. Why wouldn't it be a reason if they're maybe not Levim? No consequences if you give it to the wrong person, right? There are consequences given to the truma to the Kohen, but so it's probably because of that. But there are those who claim that the person can say, "Medini mamonot," well, maybe you're not Levi. I'm prove that you're Levi, and I'll give it to you. Oh, your proof isn't good enough. I'm keeping on to this. Now, even when you don't give it to a Levi, there's still you have to you have to designate it. In other words, the food isn't kosher until you designate part of it to the Levi. Once you designate it to the Levi, okay, part of it designated to the Levi. Now all the food that's remaining, except for the truma, is kosher, and you can eat it, right? Well, how can you eat it? It's the Levi's. Yeah, the Levi's can't prove it's theirs, or the Levi's are punished. For whatever reason is, I'm eating the Levi's food. but it's kosher food. If I wouldn't designate 10% to the Levi, can I do that? And the food isn't kosher. I can't eat it. So Terumot Ma'asrot, there's Hafrashat, we call it Hafrashat Terumot Ma'asrot, not Netinat Terumot Ma'asrot. The mitzvah is not, it's a mitzvah to give, but to make the food kosher, you have to put aside for the Kohen and the Levi. Once you put aside for the Kohen and the Levi, the food is already kosher. Then, once you put something aside for what can I eat? The Kohen stuff I can't eat.
Eating stuff, and he does like we don't eat it.
We'll talk about that in a sec. Right? Part of the things we won't give the Levi. Part of things when it comes to truma is already it can be holy, and then there are issues. So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
It's something like I'm trying to figure it out. How did you get to the 20%? Because if it's not two things in the same year, it's like in the third year.
No. In the third year, I give Maser Rishon and Maser Sheni. Yeah.
20%.
Yeah.
The other years it's
yes. So I'm gonna give the Levi is 10%, and I'm gonna give
actually 19.
19. Yeah, it's gonna be 19%. Okay. But with the coin that you're given 2%, it comes out 21%. But that's just for the that is what. So that is the Kriyat Shem. Okay. Now the Levi, the poor, same thing. 10% you put aside for the poor. Then the mitzvah is hafrashat. Put aside for the poor. Is the poor person going to come and take it? The food is kosher, right? The food is kosher. Now, Maser Sheni, the 10%, that has a different issue. That has to be eaten in Jerusalem. It's forbidden. The food is kosher, but it's forbidden to eat it outside of Jerusalem. In order to solve that problem of eating the Maser Sheni outside of Jerusalem, what do? We transfer the Kedusha onto coins, and then we keep the coins. Now that appears in the Psukim. That's Psukim in the Torah. It's not that Kesef Be'adecha. Someone has a giant field, 10% Maser Sheni, right? And years 1, 2, 4, and 5 Avedah. 10% he's supposed to eat in Jerusalem. It's a hassle to bring so much food to Jerusalem. Transfer it to money. Take the money and spend it on whatever you want in Jerusalem. You go to a spa, you can go eat out, right? Just spend time in Jerusalem. It's meant basically to cover your tzot of aliyah regel. In other words, basically your tzot aliyah regel are covered because 10%. I can afford a trip to Jerusalem. It's away from home. You have the Maser Sheni money. Go spend it there. I encourage you to go to Jerusalem.
Only in those years.
And those years, yeah.
So the Jerusalem economy doesn't do well in all the other years because
3 years out of the 7 cycle, the economy really those years is more difficult. The economy boosts during those years because people are coming with money that they only can spend in Jerusalem. Great, and they don't have to spend it on food. Anything that involves the body, they can spend that. Bathhouses, they want their meals. This money that has to be spent in Jerusalem. So that is Maser Sheni. Now, since we also want to eat the fruit outside of Jerusalem, so we're going to transfer it. And what about the money? In Jerusalem's belt, we'll go to Jerusalem and spend it. We'll put the coins away. Now,
like some place that you could send or something. It was like a place that you could.
No, we hold on to that money. If Beit Midrash isn't built, then we spend it in the end of year 3 and 6. You have to use it. In other words, people, I'll use it sometime. Until when can I spend it? So the Torah was afraid people were just put money aside for the Maser Sheni and never actually go to Jerusalem and spend it. So you have 3 years to spend it. If you don't spend it in 3 years, you have to destroy it, get rid of it. Any shovar you get. The time limit must be spent. So you have to spend it by the end of the 3rd year, end of the 6th year, or else you have to destroy it. And like last year, you have to destroy the coins. No, there's a loophole there. There's a trick. Instead of destroying the coin, you can transfer from the coin to, let's say, sugar, and then wash the sugar down the drain, and that you destroyed the value. Got destroyed, and because you lost it. In other words, you didn't spend it by this time in Jerusalem, it's gone. Yeah, it's to encourage people to let's go to Jerusalem. But today, we decided don't have that option. Okay, that is a long introduction, but now we'll understand the nusach. So we have Truma Gdola.
Like if you have, let's say, like we have a mango tree.
Oh,
So how do you
okay.
get?
Okay, how do you?
Your mango
Okay,
tree?
Terumot Ma'asrot is always from what you picked now.
Right.
Right? In order to make Terumot Ma'asrot, it has to be actually put in a basket and brought into the home. Instead, it's put into the home or not ready to be sold in the marketplace. It's not have Terumot Ma'asrot. Random eating off a tree does not have Terumot Ma'asrot. That's why you can go in those katifs. You pick them and eat them. That's not a problem. They don't have to Terumot Ma'asrot. Not an issue. The issue is putting them in a basket and being sold once you buy it. That's katifim. The action of buying it makes it mitcheh b'tumat ma'asrot. So if you're going to buy it or bring it into the house from your own field, you put it in a basket, put it into the house, then it's already chayav b'tumat ma'asrot. There are different loopholes throughout the ages. What if you put it through the window, right? Walking backwards, right? That's not nice. Yeah, the Gemara is very much against people finding loopholes. Our loopholes getting away from Tumot Masot. But the Gemara was very much against people using those loopholes to get away from a mitzvah. But we're not focusing on Tumot Masot.
I'm sorry, what's the walking backward? I've heard of the window. What's the deal with walking backward?
It's not derech. It's shinui. Right? It's like a shinui. Okay. The window is not the normal way you put things into the house. Also, walking backwards apparently is not unless it's things that are normally carried on your back, and then it is normally the normal way. Talking about something that you're doing in a weird way. Let's go into Nosach, the version. Okay, try to understand it. It's again what we said is more or less the Nosach is going to repeat exactly what we said, just in very confusing terms. I mean this is not the United States version. This is a very ancient version. It appears in the Mishnah has a similar version, but it's a combination of the Mishnah's version and the Gemara's version together.
Here it says Al Pi Piskei Maran Ba'al Chazon Ish.
Yeah, it's a combination of of different. Some of the phrases are taken from the Mishnah. Okay, but the specific phrase we haven't seen, they have the version of Chazon Ish. Here they didn't say who wrote this version. Hopefully we have the same version. Mashu yoter mechad me'ah min hakol sheyesh kan. Okay, we're saying I have this. It can be one fruit, or it can be 100 fruit. Let's make it a bit over 100. So I say, okay, mashu yoter mechad me'ah min hakol sheyesh kan. Truma gdola b'tzfono. So I designate a portion of the fruit here. That how big is that portion of the fruit? A bit more than 1%. Okay, I designate a bit more than 1%. Why a bit more than 1%? So I'm saying mash and that part of the fruit that's a bit more than 1%, we'll call it 1.1%. That 1%, that mashu yoter mechad me'ah, the 0.1%, right? Min hakol sheyesh kan, harehu truma gdola b'tzfono. Okay, and the northern part is going to be truma gdola. So truma gdola is going to be a bit more. The bit more that's 1%. That would be truma gdola. You have to designate exactly what it's going to be.
You have to separate out the different percentages.
Okay. So a bit more than 1.1% just became the echad mimea shenishar kan, right? And how much is left? No, so I put away a bit more than 1%, right? So the 1% that's left, the echad mimea shenishar kan, echad mimea is 1%. That remains. Im tish'ah chalim kamo, with another 9% just like it, right? Becomes b'tzad elyon shel haperot halalu, on the upper part of these fruit, hareu ma'aser rishon. So I put the bit more than 1%. Calls it true magdola. Can I give any amount? Then the percent and another 9 like it becomes 10% is the Maaser Rishon. Yes, we got the Truma Gdola and the Maaser Rishon. And he said the Truma Gdola is in the north, right? And the 10% is in the top part of the fruit. Okay, now Oto Echad Mimea Shasitiv, the first percent. Why do I have to do it this way? 1% and another 9%. That first percent I designated together with another 9 like him, he is Oto Echad Mimea Shasitiv Maaser Rishon Hareu Trumat Maaser. That first percent I designated for Maaser Rishon, that's going to be now designated on behalf of the Levi, right, as the Trumat Maaser. So a bit more than a percent goes to the Truma Gdola. The percent, another 9% goes to Maaser Rishon. Then I'm taking the first percent I designated, I'm turning that to the Trumat Maaser. Okay. Now, all Tish'a Chalakim Ke'ele, 9%. Why 9%? 10% of what's left. We took away 10%. We had 100. Now we're at 90%, right? So we have 90% left. So now I'm saying 9% of the original amount, which is 10% of the new amount, because that's the amount of the original amounts. In the bottom part of the fruit, okay, they are Maaser Sheni. That's where it depends on the version. Depends. Sometimes they break it up and say, "On this year say this, on this year say that." Okay. Now, if it's Maaser Sheni, right? You still have to say the words. Maaser Sheni, right? Maaser Sheni zeh hu v'chumsho. When you transfer the kedusha from, if you decide not to go to Jerusalem and decide to transfer the kedusha from the fruit to coins, you get a fine. What's the fine? A chomesh, meaning I have to add 25%. It's chomesh made about, which means it's 20%, but it's really 25%. Because let's say I have something that's worth 5. I have 5. It's worth 5 shekel, right? I have 4 shekel. I want it to be 20%. What after I add it on, it'll be 20%. That's so once you add 4 between 4 to 5, then the 1 is 20% of the 5. So it's 25%, but it's called chomesh. Only Jews can do that. Okay, so the value of the coin has to be hu v'chumsho mechulal lapruta achat. Okay, because I'm already putting to inscribed. I have to that there's a fine here. Right? If I had 100, if I want to bring 100 shekel worth of fruit, okay, that's what you're eating in Jerusalem. You're eating 125 for a shekel worth of fruit in Jerusalem. What? That yes, that's if you want to do the ban lechalel and transfer kedusha, then you get a fine. So here, all this and its chomesh and the fine, right? They're all transferring the kedusha of the fruit and its fine to the coin I put aside for it. If you don't, then you have to have a coin for that. You have to have a bracha for that. And that's how you got Truma Gdola, Maaser Rishon, Maaser, Trumat Maaser, and Chilul, transferring of the kedusha of the Maaser Sheni. Now, you don't want the Truma to get mixed in the fruit because then you won't be able to eat it. So before we start, we put a bit, anything that's going to become a Truma, what's eventually become a Truma is, in the end of the story, how much percent becomes Truma, if you're following? 1%, 1%, no, Truma. Let's do the math. At the end of the story, how much what goes to the coin? The Levi gave. No, I can give any amount. I give any amount. That's Truma Gdola, right? Now it's any amount of the fruit. Let's have 101 fruits, right? So I gave I gave half a fruit. I give a slice of a banana to the Kohen. A slice of banana. That's what I'm giving. But the Levi is going to give. How much is he giving? Which is out of the whole 1%, right? 10% out of 10% is 1%, exact 1%. So the Kohen from the entire amount is eventually going to get 1% from the Levi and any amount from me. Okay? Now that truma is not kosher for us. If you're not a Kohen, it's not, even for Kohanim, we said don't eat them, but we have to make sure it's not mixed in the pile, or else the entire food is not kosher. So before you start, you put aside how much? 1% and a bit. The 1% you're putting aside for what's the 1% for? The Levi's. Yeah, exactly 1%. And the bit more is what I'm going to give. I'm going to give a minimum amount. So the way you start the Terumot Ma'asrot, you see how much fruit you have, and you separate. If it's one apple, cut off a bit more than 1% of the apple and put it aside. If it's 2 apples, same thing. If it's 100 apples, if it's 101 apples, it doesn't get exact, because the truma, your part can be flexible. Yes, it can be any amount. So you have one.
To be at least
Exactly. How much more than one doesn't make a difference. Whatever you do, you're going to be your part, because you can give it all, right? You give whatever's more than 1%. That's your truma, and the 1% is the Levi's truma. And that cannot be with the pile, because that is not kosher. That you double wrap and put it in the garbage respectively, or wait till it rots. That's put aside. And the rest we eat. What do we eat? What about the Levi? Got fine, they can't prove it, whatever. That's the ani. The ani's coming. We assume the poor person is going to come. There are organizations today in Israel that do collect for you the value of they buy your maser ani and give it from you, like you pay them, and they'll give money on behalf of the ani, which is very nice. Yes, they're very nice organizations. They actually
they spend it in your shop.
No, it's poor. Maser ani is poor people. Yeah, the maser shani, put the coin aside, and you wait every 3 years, and every 3 years, Beit HaMikdash isn't built, and we're not going to Jerusalem, and you just either destroy the coin or use that loophole of transferring it to sugar or salt, and that's worth a pruta. Like, you can't use it, has to be at least worth some value of money, a coin that's actually used in circulation, and then you pour it out after transferring the kedusha onto it. So that is Seder Hafrashat Terumot Ma'asrot. Not an easy text. Most people, I've even had a discussion with serious Talmidei Chachamim, you explain text to me, and they kind of got baffled in exactly how to read it.
Good if you have like a black draw it out.
Yeah, some people do draw it out. Like I saw plaquettes people hung up and show with pictures. 1%, bit more than 1%. Yeah, but we're going to change. B'ezras Hashem, we start giving it. We will stop giving when Kohanim or Beit HaMikdash comes and we're doing it for real. Then we won't be giving the mashu. The Tumah does. You're going to go more than mashu. Now we only the minimum amount, because we want to waste. We don't want to waste it. Now the big problem in big industries is that 1%. That's the big problem. Because imagine you are now have a plantation of nectarina plantation, and you grow 100 tons of nectarina. Now, a ton and a bit.
You have to throw it all away.
So
or let it rot.
What do you do with that?
What do they do with it?
That's a great question. You don't want to know.
You don't want to know?
You're supposed to destroy it. Can you bury it? What do you use it as fertilizer? Oh, so one solution they do for certain fruits, the zoos in Israel are all owned by Kohanim. They sold all the animals. The zebras, they have Kohanim that their job is to own part of the zebra, a part of the antelope, part of the hippopotamus. This kind of own hippopotamus, and they say, "Hey, that's good enough. you give it to the Kohen or his animal, because the Kohen's animals can also eat from the Truma. So that helps for at least some of us, I think that's enough. We can give it to the animal because what are we risking? Like, he's not a Kohen. The worst case scenario. Oh no, the animal ate not kosher. Yeah, that we're willing to take a risk. We're going to take a risk for having a Kohen actually eat it. But there are many fruits that the animals won't eat. There's pits. Like, who's gonna peel them? And how much can they eat? There's only 2 big zoos in Israel. There's tons of. It gets destroyed. The big how to destroy it, burying it, burning it.
They can't give it to give it away.
No.
Why not? If you're not making money out of it,
You can't give truma to a goy.
doesn't.
No, that's not. You can't disrespect them. That's reason to pray for better makes rebuild. Yeah, what are we gonna do?
Wow.
So that is like why it's a problem. It's a big problem. It's very simple. They want a kasher. They gotta. It's like when we talk about small farmers, 1% is. It's 1%, but it wasn't thrown away. It was given to a coin, and it wasn't thrown away. Now, unfortunately, it's also thrown away. And also, industries, and the industries are huge. Like at home, you throw away an apple. That's maybe half an apple. 5 people, but industries. My wife has a colleague who he's not religious. He's respectful when it comes to this. Only willing to put a sign from his. I don't even say it. He puts a sign with fruit from his trees, on condition they don't give too much Ma'asrot because I don't want anything thrown away. That's his condition. Only for this, if you're not gonna, you notice people were not pushing too much Ma'asrot, privately cutting off a piece and. Tell him it's a piece of apple, like not even a whole apple. Cut off a piece. That's it. People take 1 apple. Anyway, there's not another reason to pray for Binyan Beit HaMikdash b'meira b'yameinu. Amen. This should be for Tzlachat Chayei Tzahal. Hopefully, we made this text.
You can ask Ezra if you don't do that.
There's other things they do animals at the zoo. There's Bechor Behema.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there they, but that's not the zoos. They have the either if a Kohen owns part of the animal, it can be instead of giving him, they try doing that. Some bechol behemot, they want to feed them to lions. They have
I saw that actually with my grandchildren this yesterday. They do give them raw meat, like they do.
Of course,
But
so.